Hello everyone, it's Mwelwa at the EUZBF Business Forum, where I'm about to have an interesting conversation with Mr. Hendrik, who is one of the special advisors for the European Commission. Mr. Hendrik, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well. I sat through this morning's deliberations where we had the opening ceremony with the President of Zambia and various speeches from various Zambian government officials, but then we also had a speech from yourself. First of all, what were your key takeaways from the President's speech that he gave? And more importantly, why he insisted on 50-50 sort of cooperation when it comes to some of the businesses that are coming into Zambia?
I think that the President gave a very wide overview also, explaining why should companies consider investing in Zambia. And I think that the arguments that he used, which are very correct, are obviously the fact that it's a peaceful country, there is a stability here, there is democracy here, and there are a lot of opportunities. And I think that the message was that that Zambia has too much been just the exporter of raw materials. What you actually need is you need the added value, you need also the whole value chain that takes into account the interests of this country much more.
Correct.
And for that you need investments. And that was also his message, that the investments are very much welcome, the investments from Europe, because it is after all the EU-Zambia Business Forum, and he was very much highlighting that. But I believe that the issue is also Zambia is not that well known as a country. And when people come here and see, they get a totally different view than if they're looking at it from the distance.
Correct.
And I think that one of those elements which also brings more attention and visibility to Zambia could be the future Lobito corridor. Because this is now a corridor which is supposed to link the three countries, Angola, DRC and Zambia. It should come to the copper belt. It should create a lot of additional incentives and also induced effects for businesses. And it can even have a potential in the longer term to become a first trans-African corridor when it continues also to Tanzania and to the Indian Ocean, so basically connecting the Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean. And suddenly, with this Lobito corridor, which is very high on the political agenda when it comes to EU, when it comes to the US, there is also more companies who are actually then looking at it, what's happening, why, and then they also realize what are the possibilities here. Correct. And that was another point what the President made, which I thought was very right, and I'm very happy to also to say that this is an area where we already have some good cooperation, and this is about the geological surveys.
Right.
And
because he touched on the mapping, and he actually expressed the concern that it's not the country is not as mapped as we think.
Absolutely.
It is. Yes.
And even if it is what they say, like 50%, then there is still another 50%.
Correct. That's still needs to be explored.
But the President's point was it's probably less than 50%.
Yes.
And when you look at the geographical location, when you look also what's on the other side of the border, for example, in DRC, then I think it is safe to assume that there are many riches in Zambia which have not yet been discovered and, of course, not deployed. And what is important, and once we get there, then this should be done in a way which benefits also Zambia, and where the production, manufacturing, adding value is happening here in the form of concrete products than just sort of exporting rocks. And another point, of course, about the joint ventures, I have to be honest, here my views are more mixed about that. I mean, for many companies to come and invest, they want to have the full control. And they want to actually own their business 100%. And if that's not the case, they might have some second thoughts. I understand where the President comes from also, and the thinking, which could also then help to spread the know-how, help to spread also the technology transfer to the local companies. But I think that the healthy economic environment has both. It has the JVs, and there could be ways how to incentivize it, but it should be also possible to operate being 100% owned by an entity, non-local entity, and being able to organize the business the way we want. And that is also maybe another point I just want to make, and which I have been also raising with the Zambian members of Zambian government when I was here last time, and will do it also now, which is the overall business environment.
Right.
I mean, there are so many positive things, as we said, about Zambia. It is stable, it's democracy.
Right. And the president even brought up that same issue, yes. 6 transitions, as he said.
Yeah.
Presidential power, very peaceful, no wars.
Exactly. Yes. But and these are the good things. But the business environment really needs to be looked into. Try to see where you can cut the red tape, the administrative burden, but also to see whether, you know, all the necessary procedures, are they fast? Is it possible to make them faster, because business doesn't want to wait, and there are many ways how you can actually have exactly the same outcome in terms of quality.
Hi everyone, it's Mwelwa again from Financial Insight, and I'm sitting down with Namit at the EU-Zambia Business Forum on day 3, where he's going to tell me a little bit about the panel discussion and presentation that he just had. Namit, welcome to the Fifth Show.
Thanks, man.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
So Namit, so obviously you're with Sandvik, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and the company that you represent.
Yeah, so I'm with Sandvik, Mining and Rock Solutions. We're mining and engineering providing company to mining and construction industry in Zambia and globally.
Oh, right. Yes. I mean, he obviously is a big name, and being part of this EU Business Forum must have been obviously a natural thing to do. But just tell us a little bit about the presentation that you just came fresh off.
Yeah, so our panel was hosted by the Embassy of Sweden, where they wanted to highlight a little bit more about what Sweden's doing in terms of, in Zambia, of course, and Swedish companies are doing, technology transfers and sustainability. So our panel was on the circular economy.
Right. Well, now for me as a layman, what is the circular economy in the context of mining? And this is Sandvik we're talking about. What's the connection?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when we talk about the circular economy, we're looking at and we highlighted 2 of our products. Mm-hmm. So one was on the battery electric vehicles, and the move away from fossil fuel energy to do the mining. So this is with your trucks, your loaders, and your drilling machines underground. We had a presentation on that, and then we also highlighted our carbide recycling program. So this is on your drilling consumables, so particularly the drill bits, and how we're bringing circularity into that. So we want to reuse as much of that steel and the tungsten carbide in it as much as possible.
Okay, but then is this all part of like the green agenda? How does that fit?
Of course, it's definitely part of the green agenda. I mean, part of the Paris Agreement, part of the EU's 2030s sustainable goals, and also Sandvik's 2030 goals on sustainability. So in the case about the Rock Tools carbide recycling program, we're looking at getting 95% of our tungsten carbide. Once the drill bits are used up, getting 95% of that back into our manufacturing chain in order to be reused. Because if we look at tungsten as an ore, there's about 0.5% of tungsten in the ore, and as current estimates talk about only 100 years of tungsten left. So by us recycling the tungsten and used drill bits and putting it back into the value chain, not only are we reducing the amount of raw materials we need to put into the bit, but also creating a secure source of supply for ourselves as well. At the same time, also on the steel we're using, talking about currently we're trying to use 70% scrap steel instead of 100% new steel.
Is anything going to waste though? Because this sounds like there's a lot of recycling going.
When we talk about a circular economy, that's exactly what we're talking about.
We're trying to 360. Yeah.
We want to. That is the goal. I mean, you can. Currently, we're probably sitting at about 70%.
Right.
65 on the carbide and 70% on the steel. We're trying to get to 95%.
Right.
So ideally, you're talking that there might be 5% to waste over here, but the idea of a circular economy is to just keep it going.
Absolutely.
And only bring a little bit of raw material into the equation, but keep it self-sustaining.
Absolutely. But to achieve all of this, what is the spend on R&D? Not exact figures, but you're obviously investing in R&D for you to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah, massively. So I mean, with Sandvik, we have 75 R&D centers globally.
Wow.
And we're currently spending about $3.6 billion in R&D. But that's across the board. A lot of it is on sustainable premium products and electrification. A lot of it is just on our products, how to improve them, how to make them last longer to reduce the waste.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're talking about 3.5% to 4% of our annual revenue spent on R&D.
That's quite substantial. That's quite substantial. Yeah. Namit, thank you so much for talking to us. Yeah. You heard it for yourself. Circular economy with Namit from Sandvik. So stay tuned for more insights from the EU Zambia Business Forum and get to know. Hi everyone, we're on day 3 at the EU Zambia Business Forum, where with me to talk about how this particular event has been going is Chivesa from Prospero. Chivesa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's always exciting whenever we bump into you guys at events. I think the last one was mining in Dava and also COP28 last year in Dubai. But yeah, now we have this EU Business Forum, which is focused on mining. Are you able to tell us why Prospero is taking part in this particular one? Are there any mining interests that you guys have?
Yes, really I think mining is one of the key focus areas where we have had developed interventions and initiatives in the past, and it really aligns with some of the discussions that have been held for the past 2 days, and I think some of the key areas that have been talked about have been echoed by not only the president but the ministers, have been some of the things that we have been championing in the past. We've had initiatives around local content, supporting companies that are supplying the mines, for example, and really for those such initiatives, we've really been supporting SMEs that are doing manufacturing and supplying into the mines, but even those that have been providing services. Really our angle there has been always the entry point with the SME, because obviously some of the key challenges that the SMEs have been facing things to do with whether it's financing, the limited financing, or the constraint of it being accessible, but also you find that there are other issues around capacity within themselves, having that access to finance, their capacities to actually manage some of these big contracts. So one of the things that we've done in the past is supporting initiatives that will provide some sort of whether it's import substitution initiatives where a company comes to us and say, look, I've actually got a business opportunity in the mine because, but then I do not have the right equipment. So you find that we would then come in and co-finance the purchase of such technology that would make them not only provide these products with the right quality, but then even the turnaround, which is one of the key elements that you find that the mines would actually be looking at. So we've done quite a lot in the past, I think even up to from 2014, since our interventions have been around whether it's the mining sector, the food and agriculture. We've had quite a number of interventions that really support private sector development in this space. So really for us, is seeing that now we have another opportunity with some of the pledges in investment, but also the demand, which now brings other opportunities for SMEs to now really engage. So now, if you've seen most of the SMEs that have been crying out is, yes, there's this opportunity, but how are we then going to reach, or at least from some of the opportunities that have been laid, how do we then engage? So really for us is developing initiatives that really trying to solve some of these constraints that are really impeding these SMEs to actually grow. So whether it's financing, it's capacity building with their operations, whether it's internal operations, whether it's financial management, it's a whole lot of other things, as well as the technical side, but also getting companies ready for investment.
No, Chivesa, thank you so much for speaking to us.
Yeah.
You heard it for yourselves. Partnerships are the way to go, and Prospero are here at the EU Zambia Business Forum, hopefully to strike more partnerships.
Thank you.
This has been Mwelwa Chivesa for Financial Insight. Continue to follow our platforms on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok, and get to know. Hello everyone, it's Mwelwa on the sidelines of the EU in Zambia Business Forum. Today, I'm having a nice conversation with one of our old friends, Mr. Mabin Mudenda, who is one of the key delegates at this year's event. Mr. Mabin, how are you doing?
Well, I'm fine, Mwelwa. Thank you for having me on your show again.
It's always a pleasure to have you. And this time round, we're talking EU. But then, before we get into that, most recently you announced a very, very significant announcement around Seneca. Are you able to tell us about this joint venture that you've entered into?
Yes, so Seneca is a commodity trading company registered in Zambia. Then we partnered with a company called DSC Logistics out of South Africa, Cape Town to be precise. They do a lot of haulage, and they had a trade desk in Cape Town for minerals, commodity trading, and food commodity trading as well. Mm-hmm. So we got together and decided, look, we want to grow into Africa, and then that's how we ended up partnering and doing a joint venture. Hence the name Seneca DSC Logistics. Okay. And also the same week, actually, after the joint venture, after launching the joint venture in Cape Town, we partnered with DHL Road Freight Africa. So that joint venture actually partnered with DHL as well.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic. Mr. Mabin, you're talking joint venture after joint venture. Today, curiously enough, our president, Hakainde Hichilema, actually talked about the importance of JVs to delegates at this EU business forum. Tell us why, you're participating in this particular, forum, and what sort of benefits do you hope to achieve by participating?
Actually, I do commend the president for what he's done in the last 2 years. Today, I was actually surprised that they're actually doing all those things within the Copper Belt. Right. On Friday, they launched that Shaft 28 in Wansha. Mm-hmm. Today, they launched the solar ECEC solar project. But to your question, joint ventures really, I think, they're the way forward. It's not every time really that you would actually do something by yourself and win. Joint ventures will always win, because even, for example, our joint venture with DSC has actually brought more work to Seneca Zambia. Mm-hmm. Just in the last 2 days, because of the joint venture, because of the other brand being known in the international circles, Seneca ended up getting fertilizer transport contracts. Wow. Wow. So anything you do in terms of working with others will always bring you premium.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mr. Mabin, thank you so much for sitting down with us, and we wish you well for the rest of the event.
Thank you so much.
There you've heard it for yourself. Mr. Mabin Mudenda, a proud Zambian, running Zambian businesses that are partnering up with other entities from across Africa and Europe and America. So stay tuned for more insights from Financial Insight and Get to Know.
All good, Mwelwa.
Absolutely. Now, Ashu, this morning the president gave a phenomenal speech to the key delegates from the EU, as well as the captains of industry from Zambia. Are you able to just give us some key takeaways from the speech that he gave that resonated with you as Zam president?
Look, firstly, the president pointed out 4 key aspects that he felt was very important for any development of this value chain on copper. And when he talked about access to capital was one. He talked about the new technologies in terms of developing the copper value chain. Mm-hmm. He talked about the joint ventures with local Zambian companies, and he talked about beneficiation as an important aspect of the completion of that value chain. Right. So I think he addressed it from the mining side right through to the end. Mm-hmm. And what I think the most important thing is, I think he also raised a challenge for us as Zambian businesses. He did point out directly to Zambian associations like ZAM to basically step up through its membership to make sure that the JVs do happen, and to step up and make sure that if we are doing new projects, we have access to new technologies and new capital through, I think, the goodwill of the European Union. there's also talks about financing. The European Union ambassador did mention some of the things that they're involved in, and I think it's all about bringing this together, and avenues like this forum are very, very important.
Absolutely. Now, I'll touch on the subject of joint ventures, because obviously you represent a membership that would be very keen for joint ventures. There were sentiments from the EU ambassador that the current EU is a very different one, and they're a bit more flexible, as it were, with the times, the changing times. Would you say that the conversations will be easy, because some entities might want to come and invest 100%? How do you think that gap can be bridged in terms of investment?
I think there's a concept of saying doing business in Zambia and doing business with Zambia are two different things, right? And I think this is where I think also the change of where maybe the European Union was many, many years ago and what it is now is, instead of maybe being based on a arm's length kind of way of doing things, I think the look and the wish maybe now looks like it must be more integrated even into the value chain or in terms of joint ventures. So when I say doing business in Zambia is when you are interested in investing and taking away and going.
Right.
And when you do business with Zambia, it's about building that whole ecosystem. And if you look at what I think the European ambassador talked about was a value chain based on a sort of circular economy, right? Which makes sure that you get the benefits remaining in country.
Right.
And I think that's the important message that you need to also take back from the European Union, is to try and develop something that rather than does business in Zambia,
right,
but I think does business with
Zambia
and being part of that whole ecosystem.
Hello everyone, it's Mwelwa. So I'm about to have a conversation with Mr. Massimo from Technical. Mr. Massimo, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Absolutely, and and welcome to Zambia, welcome to Kitwe Zambia, the heartland of the Copper Belt. Now, Massimo, for people that don't know what Technical is, are you able to tell us a little bit about your company?
Sure.
We understand that you're obviously from Italy, and this being a mining event, everyone will be very curious to know a little bit more about your entity.
Okay, I'm happy to share more information about our company, about what we do. My name is Massimo Marchettini. I'm the regional manager at Technical. Technical is one of the leading Italian engineering consultancy firm. We carry out projects in all fields of engineering and architecture, mainly in the infrastructure sector, which means railways, roads, ports, any kind of infrastructure, also in the water sector, so water treatment plant, sewage system, anything. And we are here in Zambia since 2014. We have a subsidiary company in Lusaka called the Technical Consulting Zambia. We carried out several projects for road development agency, so mainly in the road sector. Also, we carried out a project in the water sector for the disaster risk management for Lusaka, which means sort of a master plan in the water sector to prevent flooding in the town. Which is let's say a topic which is more and more important due to climate change and related effects. So why we are here? Obviously, mining is one of the maybe the most important sector of the economy for Zambia, and mining implies need for infrastructure. So we are exploring any opportunities of cooperation with private or public entities to bring our expertise, our know-how to Zambia, to continue bringing our expertise to Zambia, even cooperating in the mining with the mining sector, for the the development of Zambia as a country in Africa. So this is a very brief overview about what we do, and we are right now participating in more tenders, for example, with RDA or other institutions, to trying to get more projects and to continue our presence here with more business and more opportunities of cooperation. One important thing is that in all our projects we involve Zambian experts, Zambian engineers, Zambian architects. This is very important for the transfer of knowledge, for the actual cooperation between Italy and Zambia to work together.
Hi everyone, it's Mwelwa at the EUZBF Business Forum, where I'm about to have a conversation with Aya from the Hame University. Aya, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yes, it's been a very long day. This morning you were part of the opening ceremony, and we
Indeed.
heard our President Hakainde Hichilema give a very powerful speech. What were some of your key takeaways from that speech that he gave?
Maybe first to say that he's a very good speaker. The message was clear. He wants to transform Zambia by having investments and to be treated like a true friend, as he said. This is a direct quotation from him, through joint ventures. And this links to what we are doing, because these joint ventures and the business development in Zambia, it requires innovative people, entrepreneurial people, and it requires skilled workforce. And that is where we are engaged in. I've been working, my team, my university, we have now 6 or 7 different capacity building programs in Zambia. We work with technical and vocational institutions, and we work with universities. And this question that in this country youth unemployment is huge. The graduates do not see entrepreneurship always as an option, because you end up to being entrepreneur because you don't get a white collar job. So our mission and the work what we are doing is to collaborate with our partners, to ask questions and try to find solutions on how to train so that the mindset of the young people, graduates, would be entrepreneurial and kind of open for innovation and creativeness. That's where the development comes, that people can find the best out of them. And that is the task of the education institution, to have a proper curricula which recognizes the right things. This is what we teach. The second step is that it's thought in a way that it gives the space for the learner. It's not teaching, it's about learning. So it means modern pedagogical methods that we are introducing, where the learner is to having ownership of the learning process. And then the third thing is that where you teach, do you teach in an isolated classroom, or do you teach together with the society, meaning companies and societies, that you have a dialogue and their participation into the teaching and learning process.
Absolutely. So we'll certainly be looking forward to that. And Julian, thank you so much for speaking to us. This has been Mwelwa Chivesakunda at the EUZBF Copper Business Forum. Stay tuned for more insights from Financial Insight and get to know.